Hello, Tom from Photoics here with another quick photography tip guide. Today we are talking about shutter speed. So, what is shutter speed? Well, quite simply, it's the amount of time that the sensor in your camera is open to light. The sensor in your camera is covered by what we call a shutter curtain. When you press the shutter button, this curtain opens and closes really quickly or really slowly, depending on your shutter speed, and it allows the sensor to see the light. So the amount of time the sensor is exposed is called the shutter speed. Shutter speed is measured in fractions of a second, or in cases of long exposures, in seconds. You might see it written something like this: 1/200th of a second. That means the shutter speed is 200th of a second long. So the sensor was exposed for 200th of 1 second. We can have very fast shutter speed, like 1/8000th of a second, or we can have very slow shutter speeds like 30 seconds or longer. So what's the benefits of a fast or a slow shutter speed? Well, it's down to creative control. If you want to freeze motion in an image, you'll need a fast shutter speed because that captures that moment in a fraction of a second. If you want to creatively add movement to your image, you'd need a slower shutter speed to allow that movement to be captured in the image. Take for example a bird in flight. A bird's wing moves really fast, so fast we can barely see it with the human eye sometimes. If you wanted to freeze that moment, you'd need a really fast shutter speed. If you wanted to take a photograph of a river and you wanted it to look like the water was still moving, you'd need to use a slower shutter speed to let that water flow through the image. So simply, to freeze action, you need a really fast shutter speed. To show movement, you need a slow shutter speed. As usual in photography, there are trade-offs. In order to get a fast shutter speed, you need loads of light coming into the camera. Quite often that's not possible, so in order to get that, you might need to widen your aperture. You can check out my aperture video, links in the description below. Another option would be to raise your ISO. Again, I've done a separate video on ISO, you can find that in the description too. Of course, you can always add more light, but that's not always very practical. Also, if you want to show movement in your photographs, sometimes there can be too much light. If you're outside on a sunny day and you want to show that water moving down the river, you'll quite often find your photo becomes overexposed or bright white. That's because the shutter is open for so long that it's just bombarded by light. Again, there's ways we can get around this. We can use neutral density filters, which are similar to sunglasses that you would wear in bright sunlight, and that reduces the amount of light coming into the camera. Alternatively, we can narrow the aperture, and that prevents as much light coming into the camera, but obviously that changes the depth of field. Photography is always a trade-off. The skill is knowing what to change and when and what's going to happen. It's up to you to manage what trade-off you accept. At first, you may not know what shutter speed to use in a certain situation. There's a whole range of shutter speeds and there's a lot of different speed things moving in the world. This is fine. It takes practice to know what sort of shutter speed gives what results. The best way to find this out is just to keep practicing. Try to capture motion and try to freeze motion by using different shutter speeds. You'll soon realise what sort of shutter speed creates what sort of motion and what sort of shutter speed completely freezes motion in certain subjects. A good way to demonstrate this is to take the same photograph using many different shutter speeds, especially if it's something moving. Get a friend to jump up and down, take their photograph with a fast shutter speed, you should see them frozen in midair. Take exactly the same photograph, but change the shutter speed to a slower one and you'll see they're blurry. Of course, you don't have to get your friend to jump. There's loads of different ways you can trial this out using something that's moving. Just keep taking that same photograph, different shutter speeds, and see what effect it has. Beware, there is a fine line between creative motion blur and blur because your shutter speed is just too slow. If you're hand holding a photograph and everything is blurry, your shutter speed is too slow, you need to raise it. A part of an image that's blurry but the rest is sharp, well, that might be okay if that's what you're aiming for. Like with the river, if you wanted to have the river moving, the rest of the photo should still be sharp. If it's not, then you need to use a tripod or raise your shutter speed. When using slow shutter speeds, it's almost impossible to hand hold the camera. You really need to use a tripod or to rest the camera on something solid. What you'll find if you try to use a slow shutter speed when you're hand holding, your body physically can't keep that still, and all that movement, the micro movement in your body, will show it in the picture and it will ruin it. When you use a slow shutter speed, you should be able to tell that it's a good photograph because only one thing or one part should be blurry, and that's the bit that was moving. Everything else should be sharp. If you've got a building that's blurry, obviously that's not right. Buildings don't move. If you have any questions about shutter speed or anything else to do with photography, just leave them in the comments box and I'll do my best to get back to you. Don't forget to check out my other videos on ISO and aperture to go with this series, and they should help you get to grips with your camera. Hope this video was helpful, and I'll see you all soon.